Hello, everybody. Welcome to 2023, and we're picking up on podcast number 4, and we're going to go back to the concept of the geography of the Old Testament. Where did all this stuff happen? Because it becomes very confusing when they keep moving, and we're talking about generations of people, and we're talking about different patriarchs, and the name of the cities change. So in your head, you're going, where are we? I don't understand. Where are we? What's happening? So
it kind of hops around on you a little bit. You're kind of like here, and then you're there, and then you're here, and then you're like totally lost, and then you forget about everything.
So we're going to go back to what is kind of the genealogy too, and what is the geography of the Bible. So we had all the patriarchs. We had 6 covenants. 5 were from the Old Testament. The 6th one was Jeremiah predicting the next covenant, which was fulfilled in what we call the New Testament through Jesus. And all of them are tied to geography. Right? So I had this brilliant revelation last night around 10 o'clock.
Brilliant, she says. All right.
Yeah.
Hit me with it.
It only took years of Bible studies to figure this one out. So I'm looking at the map and I'm trying to figure out, okay, Abraham went here, and then Noah was here, and then they were up here, and then they moved down here. And all of a sudden it hit me yesterday. Oh my gosh, that's a triangle.
Oh.
So when you think about it, when we start at where Adam was, and then we move up here, and then we move down here to Egypt. So we go here, 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 back to here. And we think of it that way because it's easier to remember. We're talking about a big triangle where generations moved, and the patriarchs were part of moving along. Actually,
everybody's moving in a triangle, not just like certain characters.
Yeah, so when we come out of Egypt, now we're moving here and then back up. So it's first starts with just a couple people moving, and then we get more and more as we go until we get to Jesus, and his geography is everywhere. And it's everyone.
Right. Okay. Bringing it back to universality. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, which one are we starting with?
Well, we're going to start with Adam, and I know this is an area you're very familiar with. So we've talked about it twice before, but just give us a quick update again on what is a covenant?
All right. So a covenant is kind of, it's hard because I don't think the English language has a very good definition of what a covenant really is, but you can think of it as like kind of like a marriage union that you have with someone, right? Which is like pretty aggressive if you think about it. Now kind of multiply that by a little bit more, and that's kind of what a covenant is. It's more than a contract. It's not just like, oh right, so I've agreed to mow your lawn and you've agreed to, I don't know, teach me piano or something like that, right? It's not just like a contract. It's a bond and a union, usually referring to like family. So as I said before, whenever we saw a covenant being made in the Old Testament especially, it was God inviting whoever he was referring to into his family. Like literally, if you look at the language, it's kind of like adoptive. He's like, be one with me in union with me. So that if I don't know if that kind of answers
so that's
the question.
perfect, because that's the metaphor I kept finding over and over again, that we start with how does a family start? Well, a family starts with a husband and a wife. And then it builds from there. So, 2 people get married, they have kids, and then we just keep getting bigger, right? But it starts with 2 people. So the first covenant is with Adam and Eve. So it starts with 2 people. And when you look at it that way, the beginning was with 2 people, and where the heck were they? So archaeology seems to point that they were in Ur of the Chaldeans, which is down near the Persian Gulf. And why would they be there? There's lots of water. There's lots of vegetation. So the Garden of Eden needed a place that had, the garden needed water and vegetation. So it's believed that they were down in the Ur of Chaldea.
Okay.
So when you look at the geography, that's right next to the Sinai Peninsula. And it's near the confluence of 2 major bodies of water. So we have the Tigris coming down, and we have the Euphrates coming down. And you're going to hear the Euphrates used again. So when you think about it, most of the covenants are somehow tied in some way to water.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I'm ready. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's tied to water. And when you think about it, what is the covenant we make? It's usually on baptism.
Right. Okay.
And it's water.
Bringing it back. I love it. Okay.
So that was the big takeaway for me when I was trying to see the map in my head, and then just this little visual over here. Okay, everything they're doing goes along a triangle, but every single one of these covenants is somehow tied to something happening with water. So water is for us a source of life. If you don't have enough water, you don't live, right? But it's also cleansing of sin. So we keep seeing some kind of water happening here.
Okay.
Keep seeing it. So we start with the very first covenant is Adam and Eve. And you think about it, every covenant has a blessing in it. So Adam is made, and Adam means clay, and God breathes life into the clay, and he names all the animals, and he looks around and goes, well, none of these animals look like me.
That ain't it.
Yeah. Yeah. None of this looks like me. I don't have a companion.
Mm-hmm.
So the first blessing is a companion.
Right.
The very first blessing is a companion on your journey, and it's a marriage. Now, certainly, arguably, some marriages are not blessings, but...
Oof. That's a toughie.
But the very first blessing was a marriage relationship, a companion for life. And it's fascinating because when they talk about the creation of Eve, he falls into a deep sleep, and she's pulled out of his side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So symbolically, being pulled out of someone's side implies that they're next to you, they're your equal, they're walking alongside you.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets pulled out of his side to walk alongside him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how that first relationship starts. Okay, I made you, now I need to make you a companion who will walk alongside you in this journey.
Right.
There it is.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I know, especially in today's modern times, there's a lot of contention regarding like how women are portrayed in the Bible and kind of like in the faith, in church history. They're like, oh, well, women were trodden upon and blah, 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 you know. And going back to this symbolism here, there's a very specific reason why, once again, to show equality, and that's why it wasn't like, oh, well, and then God took a bone from Adam's head, you know, and that would have symbolized like she would have been above him, right? Or he took her, there we go, I figured it out, from Adam's feet, right? Then it would have been like, oh, well, then Adam's above her. And I think for people of that time, they would have really understood that, you know, like, oh, equality from the side, which we didn't see in the Old Testament until Jesus kind of came and was like, actually, she's a partner, not a slave, but, you know, everyday things.
So we start with that first one. The location is Ur of the Chaldea. And why? Because a garden needs a lot of water. There's water on either side of it, and it's near the Sinai Peninsula, which is a huge body of water. Mm-hmm. So we start there, and they're in the garden, and they're just making their way through life. And then we get the first recorded and only temptation we see, which is the temptation. The serpent comes up and says, well, eat this apple, you can eat from the tree of life. Mm-hmm. Well, the blessing was marriage. The temptation and what led to the sin was breaking the one rule that God gave them was don't eat from the tree of knowledge. Mm-hmm. So I gave you one rule, people, just one.
You had one job.
I gave you one rule, and the condition was you'll be fine. I give you a place to live. Everything will be all right. Just don't eat from the tree of knowledge, good and evil. Don't do it. Mm-hmm. So, of course, we break the condition, right?
Of course.
So we got the first relationship is a husband and wife, because you need a husband and wife to start a family. Mm-hmm. Everything proceeds from there. And that is also the blessing. The condition is don't eat from the tree, people. Like, if God has let us food around here, don't eat from the tree. What happens when they eat from the tree? Whoop, booted out. Mm-hmm. Now you are booted out. You had everything, you probably wouldn't have to work hard. Now you're going to have to go figure it out on your own. You're going to have to work hard to get what you're doing, right? So that's the very first covenant is Adam. Didn't take too long for that one to be broken.
Yeah, we're really good at that, aren't we?
Yeah, but it is very interesting because so we start down there. And what's the second covenant?
All right, so moving forward, we have the Noahic covenant, right? So like the great-great-great-grandson. Moving on down the line.
And when you think about it, we talked about this a couple times ago. It was about numbers mean a lot in the Old Testament, and the Hebrew numbers really always had symbolism. So you've got Adam up here. 10 generations later, we get Noah. Mm-hmm. And 10 has a number of interpretations, but one of them is it is God's kingdom, God's rulership.
Okay.
So 10 generations later, we have already disintegrated into some really bad stuff. Like, number one, you got kicked out of the garden, and then it just kind of gets worse from there. So by the time 10 generation passes, think about that, it's 10 generations has gone by, they're just doing all sorts of bad stuff.
Right.
And God looks down and says, okay, you people, I'm done. You people, I'm done. I'm just going to wash everything clean. Oh, there's the water symbolism again, right? I'm going to say, okay, buddy, I'm going to give you advance notice. I need you to build a large boat. Mm-hmm. And I need to put animals on it because I'm going to wash the earth clean. Mm-hmm. 10 generations later, God's dominion we start again. It's like God saying, okay, guys, we're going to reset here. And in the meantime, so God makes the blessing is after the flood.
Right.
So Noah just did what he was told. Okay, Adam and Eve did not do what they were told. Noah did what he was told.
So he's one step ahead. Good job, Noah.
The big flood comes, and where do they land? So 40 days of rain. So now everything's covered with water. So where did they land? It actually says in Genesis 8 that they landed near Mount Ararat. So you're like, where is Mount Ararat?
Yeah, where the heck is that?
So we started down here in and then the question is like, we went down from here, and then the water comes, and everything's covered with water, and all of a sudden we're going up another large tributary. We're going up in between these two rivers, probably along one of them, all the way up past Haran to Mount Ararat. Okay. That's a long journey.
Yeah, that's a hot minute.
Yeah, that's a long journey, but Genesis is pretty clear that when the boat lands finally, and Noah sends an animal out, Genesis 8, they were in Mount Ararat. Okay. So that's a big journey, but that gets us in that triangle. It moves us from all the way up to Mount Ararat. And what is the second blessing of that covenant? What is it?
So God makes the promise of, he's like, all right, I'm never going to do this again, or I'm never going to purify the world in this way again, right? I think the verbiage is pretty specific there. But then he asked Noah to make a sacrifice and whatever, and so he starts a new covenant, and the symbol there is the rainbow, if I'm
perfect. The new covenant is, okay, if you guys would just follow my rules, I will never flood the earth again. I won't do it. And he's very clear that it's not just the humans, the animals, again, will not be subjected to this. So that covenant, again, is a huge body of water, and then the symbol of that is the rainbow. Huge body of water with that one. And then the condition here, this one's an interesting condition. No animal blood. Don't drink animal blood. And then don't shed human blood. Because we've already had 10 generations pass, and we know that we had the issue with Cain and Abel, and then Cain turns out to be a not good guy, and then he's proud of the fact that he shed human blood. He boasts about it. Okay, you guys, 10 generations have come and gone. I moved you way out of
Let's try again.
I'm going to move you up here. We're going to start literally higher up. We're higher up here. We're in the mountains. We're not at sea level anymore. We're in the mountains. Okay, please don't shed human blood, and don't drink animal blood. And that was pretty important because they understood that somehow the life force of any being came from their blood.
Okay.
That's where it comes from. And you're going to see that move forward in Jewish culture. Do not drink blood.
Right.
You see it.
Okay.
You guys don't do it. So that one covenant moves forward. Don't shed human blood, and don't drink human blood and animal blood. Don't do it. We'll circle back to that one a little bit. So now we're on the second one, right? So we went all the way down from and then we're going up here to Mount Ararat. It's a long haul. So what's the third covenant? Okay, now we're going to go forward in time at least 10 generations.
Yeah. Oh, looky there. Yep. So we're hopping forward, and then we have the Abrahamic covenant, which is a big one. It's very important for the rest of the Old Testament.
Yep. So there were 10 generations between Adam and Noah, and then 10 generations between Noah and Abraham. And again, that would be really powerful to them. That's God's dominion. God's dominion. So 10 more generations pass. They're not up in Mount Ararat anymore. They've spread out. They've had children. They've moved around. They're not all up there anymore. But there's one important thing to remember. One of Noah's sons, Ham, one of his 3 sons, has a son, and his name is Canaan.
Oh, the land of Canaan. Oh,
exactly.
Okay.
So you're going, well, where did Canaan come from, right?
It's kind of random.
We go all the way from we go all the way up to Mount Ararat, and then they just spread out. It doesn't say in the Bible they all stayed together. They spread out.
Okay.
So you go from Mount Ararat, now you're going to go slightly south, and there's this beautiful country land that has a sea on one side and a sea here and a river and another sea over here. It's a great place. You got all the animals coming off. You got to move them somewhere. So they start to spread out. So the land of Canaan comes from Ham's son. That's where the name comes from.
Okay.
But when you get, it's just fascinating. Like, these names all mean something. But when you get all 10 generations later, they have spread way out. And where do we think Abraham was born? Ur of Chaldea.
Oh, so he's way back.
He's way back down there. Down the Sinai Peninsula again. So apparently we screwed up a lot, and God resets the clock because to err is human and to forgive is divine. Did you?
She had to sneak one in there. Gosh, dang it. We made it through a couple episodes where she didn't make any puns, but no. They ruined my day. Anyway.
And when you're reading the story of Abraham, Abraham's father had slid into idolatry. He was what they would have called a pagan. So now we're back down in Ur, and things are just, hey, you guys are just not getting this anymore. Mm-hmm. And Abraham's father is a pagan, and he's an idol worshiper, and God, again, pulls them out of this. And he pulls them back up towards Mount Ararat. 10 generations, they go to Haran, not too far from Mount Ararat. So literally, I go up along a large body of water to get where I'm going, which is the Euphrates River. I'm going up. Follow the water.
Okay.
Follow the water. So it's just fascinating to me. Okay, he takes this guy. I'm down here in Ur. Your dad's kind of a dirtbag. I'm going to get all of you out of there.
He just trashes on his dad and then is like, abandon him. I'm a better dad anyway.
So they go up to Haran, and you know the story of Abram and Sarah, and they haven't had any children, and they're waiting, and he's an old man by now, but you know he moves up there, and then they just actually, so this is when we see them start to come down on the other side of the triangle. So they start to come down into the land of Canaan. So they've gone up from Ur, and now they're going to come down on the other side of the triangle, which gets us to the land of Canaan. Okay. They're going to come through the land of Canaan, and he just slowly collects animals, and he's a herdsman. There's a lot of animals, so he's probably doing pretty well financially.
Pretty wealthy.
So they're just probably hanging out in the land of Canaan along the Mediterranean Sea. On one side is the Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River. They're in between two bodies of water, fertile land, and then a famine hits. So where do they go when the famine hits? Egypt. They go to Egypt. So this is the first time Egypt comes into the story. So now we've gone Ur, Haran, Egypt, and we form both sides of the triangle.
Okay.
And what was happening in Egypt? Well, every year the Nile would flood. It had a lot of water. So if you're out of water where you guys are, where do people go? They go to Egypt where there's plenty of water. It's coming from the Mediterranean Sea.
It was always fertile,
seas.
right?
Yeah.
It was always fertile.
So the water's coming off the Mediterranean Sea in multiple places. Where do you and all your sheep or your camels or whatever
however many animals,
goats, where do you go? You go where there's water. So they end up down in Egypt. So we're going to stop there.
What?
Because when you think about, there's two pieces of land that are kind of like the symbols of places like probably don't want to go there because bad things happen when you go there. So when they go through the land of Canaan, those people had, after Noah's children settled there and then Abraham moves through it, it had not pulled forth the belief in one God. They were just idol worship and just whatever. So God's always telling them over and over again, don't marry the people of Canaan. Don't intermarry with other tribes. Stay true to your tribe. So Canaan, named after the son of Ham, is not turning out to be a great place, but it is a beautiful place to raise a family and have kids. So it's always like, okay, I'm going to move you through here. I need you to get to somewhere else, but I'm going to bring you back there because you're going to be in charge of making it holy. So when you look at that one, that's one Canaan. You're going to hear that over and over again because that becomes the promised land. The other thing to remember is Egypt, because you're going to hear about that 3 times.
So many times.
The patriarchs. We've got 3 stories of people who were tied to covenants going to Egypt. And what's going on with Egypt? Egypt is a land of idolatry. It's a land of human sacrifice. It's just not a good place. But the covenants, 3 of them, are somehow tied to this place. So they get pulled down there for a reason. And the reason Abraham gets pulled down there is a famine that caused by a drought. Where do I go? I'm chasing water. There's the water symbology again. Egypt is just a place where God's glory would just like to shine, but it just doesn't happen.
It doesn't quite meet the mark.
It doesn't happen.
Right.
So there's Abraham who's accumulated these things. A wife is barren, and if you were Abraham, what would the biggest blessing you could be? What would it be?
Well, to have future generations to pass all of this wealth on to.
Yeah. Number 1, you want kids. And number 2, you need a place to put all those kids. So the blessing that Abraham gets and tied to the covenant is I'm going to give you descendants. And and I'm going to give you a place for your descendants. And it's going to be where you just came through, because that's a nice fertile valley there.
Yeah.
It's going to be where you came through. So you're Abraham, and you go, okay, where was the covenant made? It was probably made somewhere in Canaan. After they left Egypt, when the famine started to clear up, they headed back towards Canaan. So it's not really clear in the story of Abraham exactly where the covenant was made, but we have to make an assumption that it was probably made in Canaan. And God said, here I will give you descendants, here I will give you land. Not specifically clear. And what was the one, hey, don't screw this up in this relationship, this covenant relationship?
Well, he says, he's like, trust me, like this will happen, right? And then they lose trust because God takes, quote unquote, takes too long. And then that's where we have the whole, he brings in Sarah tells him to have relations with his maid, right? And then he has his other son through her. And then he's like, oh, I got my son. And God's like, wrong son. And he's like, gosh, dang it. So
that's actually a perfect description. So it's tied to a promise. Trust God's promises.
Yes.
And he doesn't.
Nope.
And he doesn't. And here's the awful thing. So Abraham goes down to Egypt because there's a famine. I got to feed my flock. I got to take care of these things.
Right.
His wife is really, really beautiful.
Hold up, everybody. We're talking like 5 stars, 10 out of 10.
So you talk about backstories of the Bible. He's got this really gorgeous wife. Well, part of that culture was if other men thought your wife was attractive, they would just kill you and take your wife.
Oh, well, it sounds okay to me.
So Abraham thinks, well, they might kill me to take my wife. So what does he do? He offers up the wife that God gave him. The first covenant is a marriage relationship. He offers up the woman God gave him to the local king. So God told you, God tells you, number one, I'll give you progeny. And I already gave you a wife. And she's beautiful, by the way. And what do? You don't trust me, and you give her away. Fortunately, God works it so she gets given right.
She gets back, but
So first covenant, marriage. Golly, I just handed my wife over to king.
how am I going to have kids now?
And then with Noah, okay, I'm going to clear the earth. You're going to have a place to live, and I'm going to give you a family, a holy family. Now we get to Abraham. Okay, I'm going to give you a place to live, and I'm going to give you a family, but you got to trust me. So give your wife back. Again, you give her away. I'm going to give her back. Okay.
Take this back. Knock it off.
Second promise, I'm going to give you a holy family. Okay, kind of screwed that one up too. You got tired of waiting. So Sarah said, okay, take my handmaid and start a family. Like you just said, sorry, wrong kid.
Well, I think what's interesting there is that it wasn't just like, I don't know how Abraham was at this point. It's kind of like an Adam and Eve scenario all over again, because Sarah is the one who's like impatient, right? And so it's kind of like how Eve handed Adam the apple. She's kind of like, here, Abraham, like the handmaid is I don't know. I don't know if that's intentional, but it's kind of like a repeat of the issue that we had in the garden, right? So Eve is like, all right, Adam, well, this is taking too long and I can't have kids anymore, and this maid can, and she's here. And also it was actually part of their culture for that to kind of happen anyway. So she was like, well, why don't you just do this, and then we'll take the kid and raise it as our own. And then Abraham's like, sure.
I had never thought of it that way before.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I never thought of it that way before. Both women just being impatient. So for this one to work, the condition...
We're good at that.
The condition becomes, okay, I need to separate you. Please don't go back to Egypt. Please don't have relations with Egyptian women, because they don't believe in one God.
Yeah, right.
So I'm going to give you the kid. I'm going to move you guys back to a nice fertile land. But from now on, I want you to circumcise your guys. So there's a very visual reminder that you are a separate and holy people. And that one, moves forward. That tradition moves forward. So now we hit the third one. So here's the first big, about Egypt. Not a good place to be. Bad things happen in Egypt, right? So don't walk like an Egyptian.
She's killing me, man. She's killing me. I'm unsuspecting. Just gets me.
So then we move forward in time again. This time not 10 generations, but all of them are related, right? So you move forward and move forward 6 generations. And a lot of the people had stayed in the Egypt region because it was steady water.
Right.
If you can
It
move
was
your
safe.
animals and crops there, and it's a big business area, right? All sorts of traffic going through here. So we end up having the whole story of Abraham's son Isaac, and then Isaac has his son Jacob, who gets renamed Israel, and they're doing all right. Jacob kind of screws up and things like that, but they're doing okay. And then what happens again? Another famine.
Oh, God. Is this where he sends his sons into Egypt, right? To get stuff and things?
Yeah, so this is where Joseph comes in. So Abraham has Isaac, Isaac has Jacob, and then Jacob, who gets renamed Israel, which means he who struggles with God, has 12 sons. And this is where Joseph comes in.
Right, okay. I was in the right
So
spot.
those lovely brothers, talk about sibling rivalry, those lovely brothers put him in a cistern. He gets sold. Joseph goes to Egypt and becomes basically the second in command. Well, what's in Egypt? Water. So what happens 6 generations later? Well, that would be 3 generations later. Now we have people back in Egypt because there's another famine. We're going after water. And Joseph, God bless him, saves all the tribes. He does.
He's like, fine.
You guys
Even though you guys are the worst. Not 5 stars on Yelp.
So now all of a sudden we're back in Egypt because of another famine. And then they're in Egypt for a long time. And Israel says, please, when I die, please put my bones back in Canaan. Please put it back where my fathers were.
Right,
and when
the
you
land
think
of
about
fathers.
where that, I can't pronounce the cave he was in, it's like Milpah or Melkapah or something like that. Where is that? It's in Canaan. It's not too far from what would become Jerusalem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so let's go back up here, and we end up not too far from what would become Jerusalem, about 30 kilometers away from that. So now all of a sudden we're back in Egypt again. And this is the kind of blows your mind. It was only 6 tribes this time. It was a couple hundred years, right? And now we are so integrated with the Egyptians that Moses is born. The Egyptians want to kill the Hebrews because there's way too many of them.
Right.
Here comes the water thing again.
Gosh, dang it, all these Hebrews everywhere.
And what happens to Moses? Moses is put in a basket in the Nile River.
Right.
So here's that water thing again. And then he gets adopted, and we're back to, okay, God's got somebody else. I'm going to pull you guys forward once again. We're going to talk about water once again. I need to make a new covenant with you because you guys just keep getting lost. Got lost. I gave you a spouse. I gave you a family. I gave you descendants. Okay, now we're going to just next step up. What comes after I given you descendants in a tribe? Next step is going to be, okay, you guys, can you think even bigger? Maybe if I get you to think bigger, you'll behave.
Maybe. We'll see.
If there's a big thing at the end for you, a big reward, will you behave? So the next big step is, okay, now I have all these Hebrews there, and they're really not united anymore. There's a lot of you. I gave you a lot of tribes, but you're not united. So the next big one is going to be tied to uniting them as a nation.
Right.
So that's where Moses comes in.
Giving them their own power. Because, right, of course, this is what we're talking about. They're all in slavery, and they're all like, why are we in slavery? And then we have the next covenant that happens because God's like, fine.
Yeah. And it's interesting because what is the thing? So Adam and Eve ate the apple, and then we get Noah's problem was one of his kids commits a sin, and then
It was a big no-no.
it was a big one. And then we moved to Abraham, and Abraham hands his wife over here, and they're not patient waiting for God. So we move on to Moses, and we get that story right up front. All that story of human frailty just keeps coming up. What does Moses do? He loses his temper because he sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, and he kills the Egyptian, and then he flees. And where does he flee? He flees out of Egypt back towards Canaan, and he's there for a long time.
Yeah.
So when God calls him back, basically 7 times, Moses says, I'm pretty sure I'm not the guy you're looking for.
It ain't me.
Yeah. So this takes a lot of prodding for God to get him to go back to Egypt. And by then, he's actually become much more Hebrew by then.
Right.
So going back to Egypt is probably, number 1, I'm an outlaw. Number 2, bad things happen in Egypt. No, I'm pretty sure you might want to ask somebody else.
He's like, no. I really think.
But Moses goes back, finally does what God asked him to do. And the blessing this time, what are the blessings that God says this time? All right, if you guys would just stay on course, here's what's in it for you. What are they this time? It's big this time.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the land of Canaan. I promised it to you a long, long time ago. I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to unite you as a nation. Okay? You're going to get the land. You're going to be a united people. Going to be united people. So that's a big, big thing. And this time it comes with a big condition. It's not just circumcision. It's 10 rules.
By the way, written in stone.
Written in stone, if that isn't enough symbology for you.
Yeah.
And what's that number 10 again? God's dominion.
Oh.
10 commandments. Here we go again. So this time it's like, okay, if you guys would just stay together, if you would just be righteous people, if you would just be holy people, the circumcision thing didn't work, so we're going to try something else. Now I'm going to actually pull you completely out of there. And the blessing, the thing you get at the end is you're going to get land and you're going to actually be a nation. If you guys would just hang in there with me. So that covenant actually happens as soon as they're leaving Egypt. Mount Sinai is actually still in Egypt. And that's where Moses gets the tablets and has conversations with God. So that covenant, when you look at that one, happened in Egypt, and then we start moving. And where do you think we move?
Back to right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we do this long trek, and we start moving down and around, and we end up in the desert in here.
Okay.
We end up down here for a long time before we
just
go back
meandering
up
around.
Yeah, because we're slow learners.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we need a long time to learn these things. So that's when we hit the fourth one.
Okay.
And then what's the next one?
So the Davidic covenant.
Yeah. And there's a long time between this one.
Yeah.
And I'm sure somebody's going to watch this and catch what I couldn't find. But what I was trying to find was, okay, so far we've seen the generation 10 here, and they're all related somehow. But we hit David. There was about 580 years between Moses and David. And I would love it if somebody could find it for me because I couldn't. What is the genealogy here? What is the genealogy between Abraham and David? I am going to keep looking. But if somebody else finds it...
like Abraham and who, like his son, and like keep going down, and then...
Yeah. So 10 generations from Adam to Noah, 10 from Noah to Abraham, and they can track all the way down. This was the grandson of the grandson of the grandson. Like when we hit that after Moses, I couldn't find that very direct.
Okay.
Very direct. Where did David come from? I'm sure if I spent more time, I could find it. So I will keep looking.
Something I wanted to say before we get too far into David, because it fits into what I was going to say. But so if we think about these people and why it was such a big deal for them to get land and that is theirs, is because up until this point they've been very nomadic and they haven't really had like their home, right? So if we look at the beginning of Genesis, back to Adam and Eve, they had their home, they had their promised land, they were given, each other, they were given, said, of course they could still have kids at that time before the fall, right? So they had all of these gifts, right? And then the fall happens, and so God has to give us the gifts back, but this time one at a time instead of kind of all at once, right? So he's like, all right, so you have to learn this thing, and then you get this gift, and you have to learn this thing, and then you get this gift, right? So even through all of the suffering and stuff, they're still learning, right? And each generation still picks up the generational sin of the last, but they're also learning new lessons. So it's kind of like he's rewarding them for the good things that they are doing. We talk a lot about the bad things that they did, which is important for us to learn and to not repeat, right? But he's giving them a home again, right? And so then we get into David, and it's like we get to David and they're all pining for like a king, right? That's kind of where this comes from. They're like, oh, we need a leader, because you're uniting us, right? Oh, so then we need a king. And he's like, you don't want a king. Like, trust me, you don't want it. And they're like, no, we need a king. And then he's like, okay. So then that's why it's important, like what David's role is because God's kind of like, well, here's a good option, let's see how this goes, But yeah, that's why it was so important for God to be like, okay, I'm going to give you your home again, and you've gotten all these other gifts, so you're kind of getting back to Adam and Eve, right? He keeps trying to put them back on top of the hill, just like he originally planned.
Oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. That's very helpful.
It keeps building. They're all connected.
Yeah, it is interesting too, because this is a little off topic, but we started with Adam and Eve, so the first covenant is a marriage covenant, two people. And a number of times God says, just one relationship is enough. You don't need multiple wives. But it's so interesting to watch how, they accumulate things, and they actually accumulate wives and concubines. I think most men would tell you one wife is enough.
That's what I've heard.
And God reiterates that one is enough. Okay, just one.
Well, it's a lack of understanding of, like, their desire. They're missing God, right? The gates of heaven aren't open yet. We have original sin and all of this, so they're trying to accumulate as many things as possible because they're missing. Right? We don't have Christ yet. We don't have the gates of heaven aren't reopened. So there's lots of holes, right? And so it's like, what can I use to fill this hole? And if you see that a lot in the pagan communities, right? They all understand. You can go back archaeologically and look and see all of these statues that are nameless and faceless and blah, blah, blah. So, like, they knew that there was a God that they didn't have, like, a name for or whatever. And so for them, it was, how can we fill in these holes that we see? And that's where we get a lot of the pagan creation stories. And that's where we get a lot of pagan traditions. It's like, oh, well, more community, more children, and more wives equals more happiness.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then God was like, no. You are meant to be partners to work through life together, your family unit and community and universality, like, because human beings in our nature are communal. And so he wanted that, but the hierarchy to everything and structure to everything. If you think about it, it's like a hill. If you look at the tree of a genealogy, it looks like kind of like a mountain, right? And the Garden of Eden was also that, right? And this looks like that. So everything is about building a strong foundation for community and faith and the church, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Huh. Because when we move forward with David, they've been given the land. The 12 tribes each got a big piece of land. And what they were asked to do was follow the 10 commandments. It gave you all these things. Just follow the 10 rules.
These will help fill in those holes that you have questions about.
Yeah, and we just don't do it. Yeah.
Nope.
We just don't do it. So then we go forward in time, and they've been separated and overrun by all these other people, and they've been carried into captivity, and gee whiz, now we're not in the land of Canaan anymore. We got pulled into Egypt, we get pulled into Babylon, we're pulled into Assyria. And one more time we got the big God stepping back in and said, I will reunite you as a people. I'm going to do this. And that's where David comes in. So David is a young guy. He's a shepherd, and we get the shepherd symbology right there. But we go to a young man because he's probably not corrupted yet.
Right.
He's probably not corrupted yet. So God reaches out to a young
Fingers
man.
crossed, everyone.
Saul anoints him, even though there's already a king, because you got the king you asked for, and he kind of turned out to be a selfish, egotistical dirtbag.
Right.
So, okay, we're going to try this one more time.
Let's try this one more time, yeah.
Let's try this one more time. So now we've got David, and where is David? David is not too far from Jerusalem, which is in the land of Canaan. So all those battles David is fighting is up and down along the corridor of Canaan, where the Israelites had been given the land, and because of their behavior had lost a lot of it, and they're gaining it all back. So I'd never really thought of this until I was reading it recently. If you're David and you're probably 14 or 15 before you go into battle against Goliath, you spend about 40 years in fighting, getting the land back from all of these pagan traditions. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Of course he slipped up. That's a long time.
We can give him some grace, y'all.
And the nice thing about David is because of the book of Psalms, that we have so much more about David than we had about some of the other patriarchs.
Right.
With David, when he slips up, he apologizes. His own priests come in and basically throw it in front of his face, and you say he screwed up. And David is very aware of his sin, and he apologizes for it. And he tries to do the right thing, so it's a little easier to cut him slack.
At least he's penitential.
Because there were 10 laws you guys were supposed to be following, and one of them is you will not covet your neighbor's wife.
And boy, did he do that.
Yeah. But that's a nice thing. So now we carry that forward. The Mosaic law was the covenant they're supposed to be following. David breaks at least one of those covenants, but he recognizes it. He recognizes what he's doing.
Right.
He apologizes for it. So things still go bad, after that. But we get.
And Anyway, they still go bad and terrible and everything burns, but
But it's like finally we recognize God's been trying to get our attention, and we started with little things, little steps, little steps, little steps. Now I'm going to give you 10 rules. If you can follow these 10 rules, which are really just a moral code, if you guys can follow this, not only will you get a marriage and a tribe and a family and a nation, I'll give you a kingdom. So like you said, you reward the rewards back, and this time the reward is actually huge. I'm going to give you the land I talked to you about in 2 other covenants, and this time it'll be yours permanently, and this time it will be peaceful. There will be peace. So if you're David and you've basically been fighting for 40 years, this probably sounds pretty good. This is sounding pretty good, because where is Jerusalem and Hebron, where he steps into his kingship?
in Canaan, right?
Yeah, it's in Canaan, and it's near bodies of water. It's really right above the North Sea, near the river Jordan. And Jordan is where Moses' successor Joshua crossed over into the promised land. So that Jordan River has an enormous amount of importance to them, because they had to cross over the Jordan to get into the land of Canaan, to get into the promised land. And where's Jerusalem? Not far from the Jordan River.
Right.
So this has huge significance. So it wasn't quite clear if he is anointed king. He's anointed king in Hebron, but the city of David, Zion, is in Jerusalem. They're very close. So finally, we get there. God makes a covenant with us. And if you will follow my rules, if you guys would just please follow the rules, I will give you this, not only in land, when you get the land, and you'll get a kingdom, and you'll be here, and you won't have to fight anymore. Wow. How many people would look around and go, hey, I really don't have big goals. I just like to have a nice family that gets along and a little piece of land, and I just like to live in peace. So if you take that from the human level to the tribal level to the nation level, that probably sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a basic human need. I want family around. I want a place to live, and I want to be safe. And David gets that on a huge scale.
Yeah.
A huge scale. Unfortunately, there's a condition that comes along with that, and the condition is that you guys be righteous. And righteous means simply follow the rules and be holy. Shoot.
Well, sorry, God.
So we're just moving along, and then the last covenant is predicted by Jeremiah, and it doesn't happen in what we call the Old Testament time frame.
Right.
You got to go forward. And this time, we get a patriarch who gets it and does it right. And that's Jesus. That's Jesus. So we've moved all over. We've had all these promises, all these attempts, and then we hit the 6th one. And we get someone who never, ever strays, just does it right. Right? So this is where, okay, we're going to talk about water again. So... And we're going to talk about, we're going to have to go back in time again. So Jesus is born. Where's Jesus born?
In Bethlehem.
Bethlehem. Where does he have to go after that?
To Nazareth, where he grew up.
No,
or
yes.
Egypt.
Gotta
Sorry.
go to Egypt
He's got to go to
first,
Egypt.
right?
Yes.
Like, okay, we're going back to Egypt. This is the 3rd time we've been in Egypt. It's just really actually ironic. God must have quite a sense of humor that this time, not to escape famine, this time to escape somebody trying to kill you, you go to the place that's full of pagans. That is really ironic.
Yeah, that's a little tough.
That is so ironic to me. And then after it's safe, they come back, and now we're back through what was traditionally called the land of Canaan. And we work our way actually down from the bottom really towards the top along that corridor. And we land in Nazareth, which is right next to the Sea of Galilee. So we go down there and we come all the way back up to the top of what is now known as Israel. So there's the symbology again. We're on a long journey from a bad place up to a nicer place. And once again, there's a body of water. So when you look at that one, most of the symbology is there. So, but the question is, so Jesus's kingdom was not going to be an earthly kingdom, because we realize that doesn't really go well. There's too many temptations. So we worked our way all the way up to a kingdom and a holy land and safety, and we didn't do it, and it didn't go well. But Jesus comes back to that same place, because that's where his chosen people are. So this time, I'm not going to go after a family. Jesus led a consecrated life, right? I'm not going to go after a family. I don't need to build a tribe. I'm not going to I'm not going to have all these descendants. I don't really need a piece of land, because Jesus' ministry was wandering.
Right. He's a nomad.
You know, and the Son of God has no place to lay his head. Heck, he didn't even have a crib to be born in. He had to borrow one, right?
Right.
So I'm not going to have a family. I don't need to build a tribe. I don't need a piece of land, and I don't need a kingship. All of those promises didn't get us where we really wanted to be in the depth of our being, which is in communion with God. It didn't get us there. We just got lost in earthly things. So Jesus, those promises weren't anything he needed. And he's trying to tell us, you don't need it either. You know, you don't need all those things. You need God to be happy.
Right.
You need God.
Well, and that's what God was trying to say, even through the 10 Commandments. Because if we think about what virtue and morality is as a big picture item, like if we break down the definition of virtue, like what is it? Well, we all desire happiness, right? Okay, what is happiness? Well, to fulfill our nature, right? Okay, what does that mean? To fulfill our nature actually means to practice virtue, because it means to follow in the pathway of God, right? Because God is goodness. He is the essence and existence of things. So we're actually fulfilling our nature and finding happiness by practicing virtue. So it wasn't, okay, here's a bunch of rules that I want you to have that are inconveniencing you. This was, hey, this is the way of life that's actually going to bring you the most peace, the most joy. All those things that you're looking for are going to be for everybody, right? And so that's what those were. But we didn't quite understand that. We saw that as a limitation once again, right? Because that's what that's going back to Adam and Eve, right? It was a limitation to what I can do, not a fulfillment of my nature.
Okay.
And so then when Christ came, he gave us even fewer commandments. He only gave us 3.
Right.
And then he was like, this is the lifestyle. This is what's going to fulfill your nature. But also, I want to be united with you fully. So everyone kind of came at him, right? They were like, but the book Moses said, and you know, everyone said, and they kept bringing back old scripture. And, you know, Jesus was raised as a Jew, and so he respected that. And he was like, yes, and we're going to da-da-da-da-da. But then he just kind of threw it out. He was like, this isn't important anymore, because I tried to create a super structured way of pointing you back towards my Father, and you didn't get it. So guess what? We're going to do baby food. And that's what he did. He broke it down to, it's all about relationship. And then they started to slowly kind of be like, oh. And so then he was like, here's the church, and and then we'll get to it later. But
yeah. Let's take away that we had all these conditions. Okay, don't eat from the tree of knowledge. You know, don't drink animal blood. Don't kill other humans. You know, all these conditions that we just didn't keep. We didn't keep. So I'm going to go back to the condition of don't drink human blood, because now move forward, the blessing we get isn't tied to geography, because Jesus says, and God will write it in your hearts and your minds. The geography of Jesus is everywhere, and it's in everyone.
Right.
So you don't need all this space and these land and everything, because God isn't going to put it on tablets and hold it up in front of you. God's going to stick it right here and right here. And like you said, it's called virtue. But the one thing that would have thrown everybody off is, he said, this is my body and this is my blood. Right? Do this in remember of me. And if you're a good Jew and you go way back in time, God said, don't drink animal blood.
That's a no-no.
Don't drink blood. And what is Jesus saying? This is my body and this is my blood. Right. Take these in remembrance of me. And that's why all those people turned back and went, this man must be nuts. We can't do that.
He's psychotic. Yeah. Well, it is a little confusing for sure.
Yeah, but that goes all the way back to Noah, the second covenant. And Jesus would have known that. What I'm saying right here doesn't align.
It's aggressive.
It's not aligned with what we've been told. Go back to patriarch. No, it doesn't align with that. So he's just flipping the narrative here. Okay, those 10 rules didn't work. I'm going to give you a couple. Eat my body, drink my blood. I'm just flipping the narrative here. And stay with me. Stay with me.
Yep.
And the other thing is, I was thinking about, where did Jesus' covenant come from? Well, I couldn't pinpoint that to a specific location, but we know when he was baptized in the River Jordan is when the descent of the Holy Spirit came, and we heard the voice of God say, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased." Mm-hmm. So it seems to me like that would be a visual representation to the people around. This is the guy. You guys have been waiting for the guy. This is the guy. Mm-hmm. And then he says things that kind of imply that same thing. I am the Son of God. He who sees me has seen the Father. Who sees the Father has seen me.
I am who am.
Yeah. So he's just kind of saying, I am the covenant this time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a symbol. I'm it.
No.
So let me make this really clear. It's just one person. And the condition this time, what is the condition? You said he's got 3 rules.
Yep.
You got a pretty simple condition. Believe in God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Eat my body, drink my blood, stay in my church. Be good, holy, righteous people. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's the condition this time. And that's what I really love. By the time you start with just 2 little people down in Ur, and then they keep moving around, and they finally get all this geography. And it's very important to explain the genealogy, too. They get the genealogy. Here's what we're going to trace it all the way back to the patriarchs. And here's all the land God says that we're going to get. And you get to Jesus, and Jesus says, the geography is your heart. The geography is your mind. And
the land doesn't matter.
Go tell everybody. Mm-hmm. Your geography as an apostle is the entire world. And what does the word Catholic mean? Universal.
Universal. Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's the genealogy and geography. Where does it start? Where did we go? Over here, back up here, over here, over here. To land right in the middle of your own heart instead of a place.
Yeah.
Yep, and I didn't even throw another pun in there.
Oh, thank you. I was like gripping the chair. Awesome. Alrighty. Well, is that it for today?
That is it for today. That's a lot.
That is a lot. Yes. Beautiful. Well, thank you guys so much for watching and for listening. These podcasts come out every Wednesday at 10 a.m. That may change, but as of right now, that's where we're at. You can find us on YouTube, as well as Salt and Light Catholic Radio's website under the podcast tab. You can just find the audio there. Okay. So if you'd rather just listen to us when you're cooking in the kitchen or whatever, you're more than welcome to do that. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you next time.
Okay, talk to you soon. It's a great day to be Catholic. Bye-bye.